Last week, Michigan State beat Akron 52-0, and Washington beat Portland State 52-6. Both teams scoring 52 points. Michigan State participating in a shutout, the first of its kind in I forget how many years, but it has been quite a while, and Washington just lashing and whipping Portland State into submission, as any Power 5 FBS team should do to an FCS team. This is one of the bigger matchups that I have been waiting to cover. It's Michigan State's first real test. My own Wolverines might not have a real test until they face the Spartans. Maybe Iowa and Penn State can do something for them, but Michigan State gets a legitimate test here. Ohio State got one, or it seemed like they got one against Notre Dame. I still think it was a good enough test. Nebraska, they have, completely fallen off the rails. I'm going to talk about Iowa before this Saturday, but Michigan State is facing off against a Washington team that I think is underrated, that I think they caught my attention today when I watched highlights of them. I thought that just before watching highlights of them and looking at some efficiency metrics and different things, that I thought that Michigan State had no business even losing to this team. That if Michigan State were to indeed go to Seattle and lay an egg and lose this game, that, well, your season would essentially end right here. Now, I'm not going to reveal my prediction yet. I mean, Michigan State's favored to win, and in my opinion, as they should be favored to win. I'm not going to give any kind of prediction here yet. I want to really save it until the end of the video, if I'm being honest here, because this is a game that I think is going to be a good one. It's going to be a good test for the Spartans. It's also a very good test for the Washington Huskies. They're facing their first legitimate defense, and Michigan State's passing defense, and especially their pass rush and defense overall, have improved. I'm excited for this game, but going back to what I said earlier, I think Washington is much better than I thought they were going to be entering this year. I had them going 8-4, but 8-4 in the Pac-12 could be 5-7 in the Big Ten West, or 4-8. If we're being honest, that's how much tougher the Big Ten East is. But looking at how Washington's played in their first two games, watching some film, they have guys at wide receiver. Michael Penix looks like he is going to have a career high season, and if he stays healthy, my goodness, maybe an NFL prospect. He looks rejuvenated, and everything looks good. It just looks good, and that's what I want. That's what I want to say regarding the Washington Huskies, and really just regarding this game. It looks like it's going to be a great matchup. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Spartan Nation, Dog Nation, I feel like would be Georgia, but the Huskies it's a type of dog, so just pretend you didn't hear that. But anyway, number 11 Michigan State is traveling to Seattle. The game will take place at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and it'll air on ABC. And Michigan State's given a 53.4% chance to win according to ESPN's FPI. The Huskies, however, are favorites. It's been switching between 3.5 points right now at the time of this recording, which is 8:21 on the 14th, this Wednesday. It's at 3.5 Washington. Money line is negative 170 in favor of the Huskies. And the over-under, I normally don't get too much into betting, but since this is a bigger game, a game that's expected to be close by many, the over-under is 56.5. Michigan State, on average, scores 43.5 points per game. The Huskies score 48.5 points per game. The Spartans, on average, allow 6.5 points per game. The Huskies allow 13 points per game. Only 2 games played. Poor sample size between the two, but it's better. It's double the sample size of what you had week 1. So the results are only going to get more and more accurate from here. The staff, I'd lean toward MSU. It's more proven. This is Kalen DeBoer's first year, and he worked magic with Michael Penix, and, I think Peyton Ramsey was his name, in Indiana in 2019, and now he's reunited with a quarterback he's familiar with. DeBoer also did well at Fresno State last year, coaching quarterback Jake Haener, who was pretty good last year. But Mel Tucker, Scotty Hazelton, Jay Johnson, Brandon Jordan, you can tell I'm much more familiar with the MSU staff, but it is what it is. I would give them the edge here. They're more proven. This is their third season. It's Washington's first season, but I think Kalen DeBoer, with that Seattle environment and what he's done in these first two games, definitely better than what his predecessor Jimmy Lake is doing. So these are both good, solid Power 5 staffs. At quarterback, I would have went with MSU here in the preseason, but something's changed. Peyton Thorne, I don't know what happened, and I said throughout the preseason, and not everyone liked it, but I said that he would regress mainly because of the loss of, Kenneth Walker and play at O-line. And it seems like both of these things have affected his play, but he has the 64th QB rating in the nation, according to ESPN. Now, it is just 2 games, but I did not expect him to struggle that much. Like, he had threw 2 picks, no touchdowns against Akron, and I think was taken out at points in the second half. I did not expect that bit, I will tell you that. Graham Mertz and Sean Clifford, and Casey Thompson too. And Casey Thompson, I think he's better than what ESPN statistics show, but according to ESPN, he's like a middle-tier Big Ten QB. Those 3 have higher QB ratings than Peyton Thorne does. Those 3 do. J.J. McCarthy, C.J. Stroud, Talia Tagovailoa, I think Aiden O'Connell too. So Peyton Thorne is not as good as I thought he would be, at least at the time entering of this game. That could change. And Michael Penix, this is more of Michael Penix just being that much better than I thought he was going to be. Michael Penix, let me tell you, 700 passing yards, 6 TDs, 1 pick. He is the 12th QB rating in the nation. And he hasn't been sacked yet, and he's actually been able to show some of his scrambling ability. He scrambled a little bit during the Kent State game, which it's Kent State, but last year we saw when he played for Indiana that he wasn't even willing to run the ball at all. So you kind of have some of that running ability back with Michael Penix and a Washington O-line that is talented and I think they are better than Michigan State for sure in pass block. Run block, I think it would be pretty close. I'd probably lean the Spartans. Same with their running back duo in Jalen Berger and Jarek Broussard. Berger so far seems to be proving me wrong. He's starting over Broussard. He's averaging 7 yards a carry, his 227 rushing yards and 4 rushing touchdowns. At wide receiver and tight end, it's not even a question that the Spartans are better there. Jaden Reed, Trey Mosley, Keon Coleman, Daniel Barker, Malik Carr, all day Michigan State there. But what I will say is Washington has some receivers too. Washington, you have Jalen McMillan, who has 214 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. You also have former Michigan player Giles Jackson, who is fast. He has over 126 receiving yards, seems to be playing better than he was last year. And Michigan State's pass defense, it really hasn't been tested yet. It's looked better. Part of that's because of the pass rush, but the actual DBs have not faced a competent QB or wide receiver core. And with the speed that Giles Jackson has, McMillan and Penix have a good connection. That's going to be a legitimate test for Michigan State's defensive backs. I think Washington edges Michigan State at defensive backs. They had a really good pair of them last year. I don't know. I think they left for the NFL, both of them. But I trust Washington there more so than MSU, especially because Xavier Henderson, I think, will be out. Darius Snow, who's technically a linebacker but converted from safety, so he'd fit more as a coverage guy. He's out for the year. Michigan State at linebacker, you have, Cal Halladay. More importantly, Jacoby Windman, who's second in the nation in sacks with 5.5, has forced fumbles. And then at the D-line, you have Jacob Slade, you have Simeon Barrow, you have Chris Bogle, Jeff Pietrowski. Special teams, Michigan State, I would give them the advantage here. Neither special teams unit looks to be amazing, and with Jaden Reed kind of being questionable at this point, I don't know if Michigan State's special teams unit is going to be great. It's going to be good. Probably average. I'd actually say below average without Jaden Reed. Washington's, though, they have a problem with kickoff. They have a problem with kickoff coverage. I mean, Kent State returned some kicks. Not for 6, but they returned some kicks against Washington, that's for sure. So, interesting matchup there if Jaden Reed actually plays. And again, the Huskies are favored by 3.5 points. If Jaden Reed plays, that could honestly be the game-deciding factor because he can return kicks. He absolutely can return kicks. Washington cannot guard. Washington cannot guard for the guard kickoff returns for the life of them. Washington's ranked 25th in ESPN's FPI. Michigan State's ranked 11th. So both are viewed as top 25 teams according to ESPN's FPI. And I agree with the FPI here. I disagree with where they're ranked. Washington's about ranked right. I think Michigan State's ranked a little high, but I think both are top 25 teams, and both are, by talent metrics, I mean, both are top 35. Michigan State, you'd say, because, these talent metrics, they really just take into account high school rankings. I'd say Michigan State probably has a top 25 roster by talent if you include development. So both of these teams are top 25 teams, or at least near top 25 teams. It's going to be a good matchup. And both are efficient. Both are top 30 in efficiency. Huskies are the 23rd most efficient team in college football. And, with Giles Jackson, Michael Penix, McMillan, Talapapa, I think is how you say his name, their running back, they have an efficient offense. Their offense, ranked by efficiency, is 4th in the nation. Defense is 64th. Special teams is 127. You see where this game is likely going, to the point of a possible shootout. Michigan State's offense is 47th in efficiency, 19th on defense. This team is more of a defensive team, as I have said, not just suspecting it in the preseason, but seeing it in the first two games. The reason Michigan State scored 52 points is because they're forcing turnovers. It's not because their offense is explosive. They're playing like solid. They look more of a Big Ten team than what I would almost call kind of I almost want to say ACC or Big 12 team last year. A team that could just score, but on defense couldn't help themselves. Michigan State's different this year in that regard. And Michigan State's 79th in special teams efficiency. Both are top 30 there. I think that, both teams, the efficiency, the talent, FPI ranking, it's a credit to the current staffs and what they've done with the team. It's a credit for Washington, just how well they've recruited and the talent they have in state. This is Kalen DeBoer's first year. It's a credit to bringing in Michael Penix, too, from the portal, because people looked at that and they thought, well, he might even be third on the depth chart. And here he is starting. It's looking fantastic. Michigan State, 35th most talented team, but I'd argue with, what they have at wide receiver, tight end, quarterback with, Caton Hauser, Noah Kim, Peyton Thorne at running back. I'd argue they're more talented than 35th most. It's just because they don't re-rank high school prospects when they're in college. They just keep high school prospects there, but that doesn't account for development properly. It would be nice to see analysts re-rank high school players by star in college. I think that would be really cool, actually. So that's just the game preview and some of my analysis on it and thoughts, including what ESPN and 24/7 Sports from the Talent Index think. I want to go to players to watch. Michael Penix is up for number 1, I think, for Washington specifically. Michael Penix, 46 of 66, 682 passing yards, 6 touchdowns, 1 pick, 85.9 QB rating, and a 183.5 passer rating. That passer rating, it's against weak competition, and it will definitely go down, but to just make a comparison for now, just how high of a passer rating that was, it's higher than what Bryce Young's was last year. It's obviously going to go down. This Michigan State defense is better than any passing defense that he's faced thus far in Portland State and Kent State, who are, if we're being really honest with ourselves, they're bottom feeders in that aspect. He's also rushed for 27 yards on 4 rushing attempts for 6.8 yards per carry, with a long rush of 10. He averages 10.3 yards per pass, had a long pass of 84 yards, which was for a touchdown, and he completes around 70% of his passes. He has not been sacked yet, which, again, facing weaker competition, but Michigan's given up a sack against weak competition. Michigan State has. It's a testament to Washington's O-line, who has had a lot of potential. It was poorly utilized and coached last year. I think it has certainly improved this year. So look out for Michael Penix and him targeting McMillan and Jackson especially. Those two, watch out for Michael Penix Jr. Then there's linebacker Jacoby Windman. Jacoby Windman is a beast. He is a beast in himself. It's crazy. He is, as Mike Valeni said, as advertised. He is as advertised. Jacoby Windman has 6 solo tackles, 5.5 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, standing at 6'2", 230 pounds from New Orleans, Louisiana. This guy's crazy. 1 fumble recovery, 12 total tackles, a pass defended. He had 4 sacks alone against Western Michigan. And again, he's going to be facing a much better O-line. But if Michigan State wins this game, I don't think it's because of the offense. Peyton Thorne struggles, the wide receivers having some issues at times, the O-line overall being sketchy. And I know that the running backs have looked good, but I'm going to be honest and say that I think once these running backs with the O-line and passing game they have, when they face a Big Ten defense that'll just stack the box and dare MSU to throw, I think you will see that run game take a bigger step back than many would like to believe. If Michigan State wins this game, I think it will be because Jacoby Windman, guys like Jacob Slade, Aaron Brule, Cal Halliday, I think it's because the front 7 and the secondary too, even with its injuries, they step up and they make plays against an offense that, quite frankly, you look at what Washington's been doing on offense. If they faced last year's Spartan team, we would know that they would score more than 30 points on last year's Spartan defense because of how well they match up. So this is a legitimate test, and Jacoby Windman is certainly, regardless if Washington or MSU wins, he's going to get in the backfield. Jacoby Windman will have a sack. I guarantee it. Even if Washington's O-line plays really well, Jacoby Windman, coached by Brandon Jordan, that front 7 knows what it's doing. They're great players. They have confidence. They almost cringe at saying this, but they have that dog in them. More cringe from me. You just can't see me because I'm not on camera. But Michigan State's defense, this is a defensive Spartan team against an offensive Washington team. This is going to be a very interesting matchup. So let's get into the score prediction just right now. And I think this is a tough one to pick. And I replied in a comment yesterday saying that Michigan State should win this game. And then I watched Washington, and I actually investigated the statistics, because all I saw previously from Washington is they beat Kent State, but they gave up 20 to them, and that's not good. Then I saw, what they did to Portland State, and it's like, it's Portland State, but when you hang 50 on any team, it's impressive, especially in the manner that they did. And I think that this being a game in Husky Stadium, there's going to be, probably some fog. The weather forecast is light rain. Thorne hasn't been playing well. Michigan State looks shaky. They have a lot of energy and confidence going around. And I guarantee you 90% of people are picking Michigan State to win this game, or a lot of people are. RJ Young is picking Michigan State to win this game. And actually, RJ Young picking the Spartans to win helped push me to pick Washington to win this game, by the way. 33-28, I don't think Washington is beating MSU by 10. If one team blows out the other, it will be Michigan State blowing out Washington. Because Michigan State, even though I'm picking them to lose, I think Michigan State's the better team and will be the better team at the end of the year. It's just a road game. Weather is, it's going to force... The weather might actually play in State's favor the more I think about it, because rain forces teams to run, and Michigan State is probably going to be the team that better runs the football. But Washington, they have a mismatch against MSU secondary. Michael Penix with an improved O-line in front of him compared to a good O-line that's much better than any O-line he had at Indiana. He is going to have time to pass in multiple different situations. The Husky secondary, with Thorne not playing as well and Reed potentially not playing a whole lot, they're in a comfortable situation because Reed, by far the best wide receiver for MSU, if he doesn't play or if he does, that is a huge factor that I think definitely could change. If Reed is completely healthy, plays better than he has in the first 2 games and gets to return kickoffs, MSU probably will win this one, if I'm being honest. But listening to the Valenti show with Rico, seeing statistics and watching the game that Michigan State played against Western and Akron, Reed hasn't played much. And he's a big factor here because Washington cannot cover kickoffs for the life of them. And Jaden Reed's fantastic at returning punts and kickoffs and also burning and torching secondaries. Washington will get a signature win. For Michigan State, they very well could win this game. Berger and Broussard will certainly get over 150 rushing yards. If not, they could get 200 rushing yards pretty easily because Washington is not a team who's going to fare well against the run attack, I don't believe, which could open up opportunities for the pass, but the pass game on both sides of the ball for Michigan State is weaker than for Washington. Both their pass defense is weaker than Washington's, at least in coverage. Pass rush, I'd say, goes to MSU, almost obviously. And their pass game, like throwing the ball, I think for now I would even favor Washington there too. Just because of Reed's, injuries and soreness and Peyton Thorne not having good outings in 2 games. Michigan State, though, they will force Washington to pass. They will shut down Washington's run game, force them to air it out, dare them to throw, which is why I think Washington, 33-21, I think Washington's going to score 3 TDs, kick 3 field goals. They're going to play that bend but not break defense, which will keep Michigan State in this game despite their weaknesses in the secondary. And that's all I have to say for this prediction video. If you liked it, make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, click the notification bell, and comment your thoughts on this video down below. And if you're listening on Spotify, make sure to follow the channel. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you around. Bye.